So this is the most recent addition to my gaming PC that I'll be using to upgrade from an old GTX 660 that I've been using for the past 4 or 5 years. It's a pretty big step up from what I've been using, as I've been recently getting back into PC gaming after a bit of a break, but I'm pretty keen to try it out, and it will come in great use for the 1440p monitor that I've recently gotten, and should help me play more recent games at pretty high quality settings. So first part of this video is going to be opening up the card and seeing what's in the box and having a look at the card itself, and then in the second part of the video I'll be installing it in my computer. So I bought this card used off Facebook Marketplace for 400 Australian dollars, which is about 270 US dollars. So it's a pretty good deal in today's market. Because this card's a few years old, it obviously does go for a bit cheaper, but this is all I need for what I'm doing. Not really looking at pushing high refresh rates at the moment, so this is fine for 1440p on high settings. So opening up the card, get into the box. Obviously the seal is already broken because I have bought this used. Now if we look at the box, if I can get it up. So there's the Strix logo, and if we open this up, you'll see there's a nice little package here with, first off, our accessory box, which I'll open up first. So we've got some paperwork, so just some ASUS, I guess this is a quick start guide, which we don't really need, and the driver disc, which we don't need either because we'll be downloading those separately. And then this box, I've also got some sort of power adapter cable for your power supply, as well as some cable management straps, which I guess will come in handy if you want to keep your computer looking nicely. And then getting to the graphics card itself, which has got some foam padding, and here is the card itself in some anti-static packaging. So we'll take it out of that, and then here we go. So this is the GTX 1080 Strix from ASUS. As you can see, it's a 3-fan design, and it's got the aftermarket board compared to the reference design. So we also have a nice back plate on the back. And so some of the extra features of this card that might be different to other cards is we've got some ASUS Aura lighting across the card. There's this logo, I believe, lights up, as well as these strips along here, which can be customized to whatever color you want. And if you've got other RGB lighting in your setting in your computer, you can match that up as well to all sync it up. So the port selection we have on the back here is a bit unconventional compared to most other cards. So we've got DVI up the top here. We have 2 HDMI ports and 2 display ports. So generally most modern graphics cards will have 3 display ports and only 1 HDMI port. But one of the selling points of this card is that it's VR ready. And so you can use this second port to plug into a VR headset while also plugging one of the other HDMI ports into a monitor. Also, another feature is we have 2, if I can find them, 2 fan headers right on the graphics card, which you don't normally see, but these are to plug a couple of fans in and control their speed based on the graphics card temperatures rather than the temperatures of the processor, which come in handy if you've got fans that are blowing right onto the graphics card rather than just general system fans. So that's the GTX 1080 ASUS Strix graphics card. Next step will be to install this into my build and get it up and running. Now I'm going to install the GTX 1080 ASUS Strix Edition into my current custom gaming PC. As you can see, I've already taken off the temper glass side panel, and there is no graphics card in there currently because I've recently removed this and sold it to help fund this new GPU. So the specs of this build are, I've got an Intel i5 4590 16 gigs of DDR3 HyperX RAM, Z97 M- Plus motherboard from ASUS as well, and a Corsair 500 watt power supply. And the case we've got here is the NZXT S340 Elite. Yeah, and so this is my current build, so I'm slowly looking to upgrade some of the parts in this to sort of bring it up to spec and be able to play current games. After this graphics card, the next thing I'm looking to upgrade is the processor to a 4770K or a 4790K to sort of get the most performance I can on this platform before I have to upgrade the motherboard and the RAM and everything else. So let's get into the install of this graphics card. So installing the graphics card is one of the easiest steps of building a computer. It's pretty straightforward. As I mentioned before, my graphics card is currently missing from the computer, and I've already got the back PCI slot covers taken out, which you'll have to do yourself if you haven't already done so. So on this system there's a bracket at the back that sort of holds all the PCI cards in place, so I'll have to take these off first. Luckily it's held in by a few thumb screws, so it's nice and easy to do so. And then on the graphics card itself, there's just this rubber PCI slot cover that I'll have to take off, which helps protect the pins while it's not in use. And then the next step is just to install the graphics card itself. So I'll try to line this up with the ports at the back, and that looks like it's in. And once you feel it go in, just push down, and that should lock into place. And there's a little clip down here that should have clipped in. And yeah, so that's your graphics card installed. And the only other thing we have to do is to install these thumb screws in the back to make sure it doesn't go anywhere, and it secures the card a bit more. So in this case they're thumb screws, in some other cases they might just be regular screws and you'll need a Phillips head screwdriver, but I'm just going to install them here. Sometimes you have to move the card around a bit just to make sure it lines up with those holes, but it looks like that's going in nice and easily. And I'll just install this second thumb screw. And that's all in, and as you can see it's nice and secure and that's not going anywhere. And the final step is to reinstall this PCI express slot bracket that holds all the cards in place, and yeah, make sure nothing's going anywhere. So the final part of installing the GTX 1080 ASUS Strix Edition graphics card is installing these supplemental power supply cables for the graphics card to be able to run. So generally most power supplies will have a 6-pin and an 8-pin cable, and this GPU requires both of those. Some graphics cards have 2 8-pins, some graphics cards only have a 6-pin or only have an 8-pin, but this one requires both, and so you need to install both of them for the card to run properly. So this first one is just one connector, but this 8-pin splits off into two parts, so a 6-pin, and then you can add these 2 additional pins to make the card into an 8-pin, which is what we'll need for this card. So I'll just plug these cables in. I might fast forward it in case things get a bit fiddly, but you'll be able to see what I'm doing. So I'll just do that now. So there's the first one, you'll hear it click once it goes in, and now I'll plug this second one in. So there we have it, that's both the power connectors plugged in, and so this graphics card should be all ready to go. So once we boot into Windows, I'll need to install the NVIDIA drivers and the most up-to-date drivers for this graphics card to get it up and running. So in a separate video I'll be showing you the card up and running. I'll play around with some of the lighting settings on this card and test out a few games to see how it runs. So thanks for watching, bye.